David, could you recognize any city officials that are here this evening for the record?
Yes. Mayor Jim Scoots.
Here.
Safety Service Director Renee Baker.
Here.
Chief Counsel Earl Wise.
Here.
Director of Development Ted Hurricane.
Here.
Income Tax Budget Director Lori Katagides Warren.
Here.
And City Engineer Alex Pitts.
Present.
Is there anyone else from the administration that I have missed? That's it, President Pro Tem.
Thank you, David. And let the record show that there are 8 members of council present, with Councilwoman Hollenbeck being absent, and President Slater is also in attendance.
Excuse me, Councilwoman who did let me know she was not.
Thank you. All right, let's get started. Mr. Lewis.
Can I make a request?
Sure.
If we're going to have extensive conversation regarding the replat with Billy with Bid here, if council's okay with that, can we move that to the end so the other committees can take care of the business and move on to them?
I have no problem with that. Anybody have any objection to that? No? Okay. Councilwoman Creamer, you don't mind being moved to the end?
That's quite all right.
All right. So then we're going to start out with Economic Development, Councilman Ray.
Thank you, Councilman Levert. We do have one piece of legislation. On March 18, 2024, the Massillon Tax Incentive Review Council met and reviewed the City Enterprise Zone EZ project. The TERC is required by state law to annually review each EZ agreement to make sure that each company is compliant per their agreement with the respects to their projects and investments on job creation, retention, and commitments. The TERC makes recommendations to the City Council to continue, modify, or terminate the city's existing EZ agreements. And in this meeting, we all came to the conclusion that we recommend that all the tax exemptions for the active EZ projects be continued, and that will be attached in the attachments. The 3 businesses are attached. So basically, all the businesses have came to the got all the requirements, and they met all the requirements for us to continue on. So if we have any questions about this, we can bring them forth now. All right, I see no questions. I plan to move this to our council meeting on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ray. Go to Health, Welfare, and Building Regulations, Councilwoman Cunningham.
None at this time.
Thank you. On to Parks and Recreation, Councilwoman Margaret Smith.
I have nothing for Parks and Rec this evening.
Thank you. Nothing for Police and Fire from me today. On to Public Utilities and Environmental, Mr. Lewis, nothing. Rules, Courts, and Civil Service, Councilman Gray.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardi. I do have one piece of new business. An ordinance amending section 2B occupation list of class titles of ordinance number 127-1997 by establishing and creating the position of Animal Control Officer and establishing the class grades 14S classified, pay schedule for said position within the 160 Service Department, and declaring the same to be an emergency. And job description is attached. Someone from administration like to come forward and talk about this?
Good evening, Council. In front of you is legislation for what I believe is a position that's very needed in our city, and that's the animal control position. This position will be a little bit different than what we are used to seeing it as it was once in the police department. This position will report to the Safety Service Director, and it will be housed in the health department. We spoke to Terry Argent. They do have an office available for her, and I thought it would be a good idea that it be in the health department, since the health department does take care of things like animal bites, dog bites. So they would work hand in hand together. The wastewater treatment plant has a vehicle for the animal control officer, which I believe would be suitable. It's a van that they would use. The position is a 14S, so it would be between $21.50 and $24.20 an hour. It's a full-time position, and it'll be funded by the carryover in the general fund until we get budget for it next year. Then we will come to City Council for appropriations in the coming weeks here. We'd like to move on this. I feel like we need this position in the next few months here. I'd like to have it started by the beginning of summer, if not before. Some of the responsibilities, as you know, the animal control would deal with dog bites, cats. Even in my time with the police department, we dealt with an alligator. So, true story. But some of the other responsibilities will be the TNR program, the trap, neutering, return program that we deal with cats. So it is a much needed position, and this is something that all of us have heard about in the last 12 years. So are there any questions?
Mr. Lewis?
Of course, you mentioned funding coming from the carryover. I know that we did at one point have some funding in ARPA for similar things. Is there any money left in ARPA to assist with this?
Well, with the ARPA money, we inherited those buildings downtown, so we thought it would be best to hold on to that money for whatever plans we have in store for those buildings, which we've been talking about that. So we didn't want to use the ARPA money for this.
Councilman Creamer?
So I have not sat and did the calculations, but you gave us the hourly wage. So what would that salary be on the high end plus benefits?
The salary on the high end would be roughly $50,000. As far as the benefits, I don't have the numbers. Lori Kennedy-Moore would probably have those numbers. Or may have those numbers.
I can give you an estimation, not knowing what that person would take in healthcare. You can take anything from opting out to the high end. I would say probably maybe around 80,000 or so collectively, but I would have to see the salary to also calculate what would come with PERS and Medicare. But yeah, so I'd say approximately 80, but might be a little bit more.
Ms. Creamer?
I have another question. Since these duties, thank you for the duties and responsibilities. I am in favor of animal control, but I just want to be sure I understand completely our hiring process. So this individual is going to investigate animal abuse, violations. Is this going to be a 24 hours on call, 7 days a week position?
This would,
So on weekends, off shifts, holidays, is someone going to be there to man or carry a pager or something like that?
this would be a position for one person. So how it's handled now, if there was, for instance, an animal bite, a dog bite, that person would call the police department. The police department would respond. They would quarantine the dog, do a police report, and they would pass that information on to the health department or the Stark County Dog Warden. So if it's after hours, if it's not an emergency, I would assume that's how that would be handled. I would not agree with paying somebody overtime to come out and handle a dog bite when our police have been handling those types of issues forever.
So it'll roll over to the police department. This person would be working like 8 to 4:30 or whatever the
Yes.
hours are, and then anything after that time, Saturday, Sunday, holidays is the police department.
Right.
So would they also be doing the on-the-job training? Because, you know, looking at the job description, there's going to be a wealth of knowledge needed before you're going to allege animal abuse and possibly remove an animal from its owner. So who's going to be training that, and are they certified?
We've received a lot of phone calls from people that are interested in these positions that have a lot of training. But yeah, that would be something that we would probably reach out to the Stark County Sheriff's Department too, and talk to the Stark County Dog Board to see what types of training that these individual or this person would need to carry out these duties. So.
And we would pay for that training for that
Absolutely.
individual to be certified?
Correct.
And have them, can they sign a contract? If we're going to be paying training and getting them certified, can we have them sign a contract or with the city to work for us for 3 to 5 years?
That's
I just don't want to see this individual, put money into this individual, have them stay a year, and then go to a higher, higher paying position with training that we provided and paid for.
Right. That's something that we can address. That's not something that we talked about currently, but that is something that we can address.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Cunningham?
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Is this position going to be a police officer or just any individual that can apply?
It will not be a police officer. It'll be a dedicated animal control officer. It would be a bonus if they had some sort of police training, but that's not going to be a requirement.
Thank you.
So will this position be part of the police department? You stated before it's going to be reporting directly to the safety service director.
Correct. So this position would not report to the police department as it did in years past. This position would report to the safety service director, be housed at the health department. So the only time that this position would interact with the police department would be is if the police responded to a dog bite or it were the weekend and the animal control would need to get some information from the reports as to what happened.
So this individual will not have any law enforcement responsibilities?
That is correct. They will not.
Any additional questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
We'll put this on the agenda for Monday. And that's all I have for rules and reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next to Streets, Highways, Traffic and Safety, Councilman Sneak.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardi. We do have one new piece of legislation, preparing an ordinance to rename an unnamed alleyway as Cole Court Northwest, basically for an individual that's receiving medical supply deliveries that have become problematic. They do intend to bring this forward for a vote on Monday to expedite it for that reason. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Seeing none, well, that's all from Streets and Highways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sneak. And then on Finance, Councilman Lewis.
Yes, our first piece is, as we know, we have 2 new code enforcement officers that are out there getting trained, and I'm sure out there starting. In order to make that happen, we do have to budget from the carryover from the general fund 1100. It's $72,905. $69,200 of that is for salary, $3,700 is for the TRS. Did speak to Lori if anybody has questions, but there was some room within the budget of what's already appropriated, kind of what she hinted to already, depending on who takes what as far as health care benefits and whatever. There's always a little bit of flexibility in there. So that's what we're seeing here. The reason the appropriation isn't as large as it could have been is because there was a little bit left in the budget. Plus you have 2 months in which they didn't work with us, so it's 2 months of paid benefits that we don't have to worry about. And this will get us through the end of the year. Coinciding with that, to talk about it at the same time, in case anybody has questions, we do see a request for a transfer for the total of $7,000, and that's for their PRS and Medicare as well. Again, this is just to cover the salaries and benefits of these 2 officers. Are there any questions tonight? All right, well, the question legislation I'll sign and put on the agenda. You notice it does not have emergency language on it. that's all I have to say about that. And then the transfer, once we sign it, we won't see it again. Then we have two pieces of legislation here, basically doing essentially the same thing, but for different communities. These are the agreements that we enter into with the neighboring communities so that our law department is able to perform prosecutorial duties for them and other legal services. One is for the city of Canal Fulton for a one-year agreement in the amount of $25,200, and the other one is Beach City for $6,000. Are there any questions regarding either of these? All right, and we'll sign these for the agenda on Monday, and that is all I have in my hands.
Thank you, Councilman Lewis. And now, finally, last but not least, Community Development, Councilwoman Freeman.
I have one item that falls under community development, ordinance to accept the replat and vacation and dedication of the easement of Whitetail Creek Development. This is on the corner of, northwest corner of 9th Street, southwest, and Albrook. So, I know we've had 2 readings regarding this. There have been multiple questions and comments that have been brought up to us regarding concerns. Has anyone contacted the EPA? Has anyone contacted Stark's Soil and Water? And I just kind of want to start additional conversations with issues with the water on that parcel of land. But I think we have individuals here tonight. So I don't know, Mr. Hernkane, maybe you want to give me a seat.
Sure. Thank you, Councilwoman Kramer. So as you all know, over the last several weeks, we have discussed this matter at length. The ordinance before you is to approve or not approve the recommendation from the city's planning commission, who on February the 14th did approve the replat, which consists of moving 2 easement lines and combining some lots on the site. The ordinance at hand is not your consent whether you approve or disapprove of the project at all. The current property owner, Bittier, bought this property last summer. They are the rightful owner, and one indisputable fact is that they're going to build a data center at the corner of 9th and Albrecht. Your decision on the plat determines how that site is laid out. Mr. Hansen is going to come up here in just a moment and talk about the 2 site design options, what it looks like with the replat, what it looks like without the plat. Mr. Pitts, our city engineer, and Mr. Noble, the civil engineer, on behalf of Bittier is here. They will talk further about the water. I know there's some additional questions there. With that being said, we just have Mr. Hansen come up and talk about those couple items.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Again, I appreciate you guys having me in for, I believe this is the 3rd time now, so that we can clarify any of the questions you may have in the design that we're putting together. If you don't mind, I'd like to step up front and kind of go through the design with you. Tell me, am I loud enough for everybody? So the site plan that we have here is our original site, where we removed the easements that went through the middle and came up through here. And we've laid out, as we said, with the warehouse on the west, trying to move our data center buildings as far east as we can. And then you've got the substation to the south here, leaving some of the vegetation here, sparse trees along this side, where we came in and said that we were going to put in a 10-foot wall here. Work on the structure design, work on the heat abatement as well as the noise when we go into our structural engineering. That's how we were first approaching how we would mediate some of the noise concerns and so on. Now, we've worked together with our design team and went back to the drawing board and
whether or not you approve the replat will decide how we can build out our center. So this is our initial thought with the easements removed. On your second page in your handout, this is what it looks like with the plat still in there of the easements going through there. And as you can see, the easement kind of cuts us in quarters, and it very much limits that you can't build a building over the easement. However, you can pave over the easement, but you cannot put a building over the easement. So as you see, we've had to string out our data buildings across the top here a little bit wider. And then where we had the substation, well, since we've got the water issue and concern through this area, we've had to move the substation over to the southwest corner with the easement still in there for us to be able to put in the amount of data buildings that we need to be able to function at 220 megawatts. And the thing with the substation being in the southwest corner now, it's closer to the residents, which we don't want to do, but also we can come in aerial with the power cables, and then all of our power distribution to the buildings will come in aerial and then be dropped into the transformers that will run the buildings. So that way, again, we're not messing with the reservoir. We're still maintaining the same retention pond, but unfortunately, we've had to make some adjustments on how the building layout would be so that the easements are still remain there. So that's what it looks like if we have to keep the easements. However, we went back to the drawing board again and worked with our design team, and I have something new to present to the council this evening. If you could please pass those down. We've come up with design option number 3. We as a company have listened, and we've been very in tune with what the community has been, with the concerns with the water and with the noise. So if you can see, now we redesigned for a third design if we can have the easements removed. So, as you see over here on the west side, you see that we've moved our storage building further away from the resident on the west side. What we've done is we removed 2 of the 26 buildings, and we've incorporated the racks that would hold the servers into these 2 far eastern, or these 4 far east buildings. So those buildings will be a little bit higher than the others to accommodate for the 2 buildings that were on the far west. Okay, not only that, if you see this outline here, this dark outline, this is now going to be a sound absorbing and noise reducing wall, similar to a highway wall, similar to other ones that are in industrial complexes. At this point, we're vetting many different providers of the wall material, so I can't tell you exactly what the wall will be, the material. However, it will be between 10 and 15 feet high. We're removing that west wooden wall, but we're going to put this up all the way around the site. Now, that being said, with the amount of miners that are on this, let's say west half, east half, where the sound wall is, on the west half, that's about 40% of the miners. Now you have 60% of the miners further away from the residents. Also, this is all industrial from the old steel plant. So, and we've even covered the south for the resident that lives down here, and then this transmission yard down here. So, you've got 3 layers of sound absorbing and sound reducing walls. That one goes down the middle here to prevent these noise from going that way, or to minimize the noise going that way. Now I've enclosed the whole western half of our site in a sound reducing wall between 10 and 15 feet high to cut down the noise. And then we've done it all the way on the south too, where before we were just going to do chain link there. So then you've got your chain link that will come in here and enclose the rest of the property. Right here at where the waterway goes through, we'll be doing chain link fence across here, because one concern was that kids play in this waterway, and we wouldn't want it to flood out on them. Well, we're not contributing to that. In fact, we believe that we're taking water out of that area, but this whole site will be fenced off. It will not be accessible from the outside. But we believe, with our design team and with all of our efforts and listening to the communications from the community, this is the most sound reducing, best effort that we can go. And remember, we still have buildings to design. So in that is going to be sound abatement and heat abatement. So with the structures themselves, we're going to try to reduce the audio volume that comes out of those. I've driven up and down, and today I took a very extensive drive through all the other areas within the industrial park. And you've got loud fans, you've got dust collectors, you've got all kinds of industrial noise there. But I don't see anybody with things like this. They have fencing to protect the property. But I believe that we've just provided an acknowledgement of the concerns from the public. I believe that we are really trying to show, because I've heard many comments of, well, how do you know? You haven't shown. What are you giving me? I'm giving you what they put on a highway or something very similar that's noise absorbing and also noise canceling. So, and this is not going to be cheap for our company in the construction phase to go from, initially it was just going to be chain link to a wooden fence and now to this. But I believe this is our best effort. And whatever the decision is next week, our intentions is at the beginning of April to start construction, we've got a local vendor chosen to do our civil design, our civil implementation, and I can't put them on pause for too long because it's construction time. And when you're dealing with a massive civil site development, if I don't keep them on the payroll and get them going, they're going to find other jobs. You can't keep people from working. So we have a timeline, and in order for us to come close to our timeline or to meet our timeline, we've got to move forward starting next month. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us to say, okay, we've heard you. We understand what the community is asking for. We understand the noise concern and the water concern, and that will be, our engineers here that are experts in civil design. But as far as the noise goes, I think we've come up with a very good plan to help assist with that.
Mr. Lewis.
There's been a lot of talk, and I know some other council people are wanting to possibly bring this up tonight as well, about looking at our code and saying light industrial, say a 50 decibel limit for light industrial. Do you believe you're probably going to come close to that?
Well, when I tested in Rockville at 400 feet, I was at 62 decibels. That was with no obstructions. So we're at 400 feet away from the first residence, and with this noise absorbing wall, I believe I'd be under that. However, I know at the last council meeting that it was brought up that many of the industrial areas around there are at 60 decibels. I believe we'll be under that for sure. And then again, that's without the structural design of trying to implement noise controlling things within the buildings.
I just ask because as we move forward with this and we try to work collaboratively as best as we can, we don't want to be lacking transparency in either direction.
One thing I want to add, Mr. Lewis, and the noise levels throughout the industrial areas that you drove or we received pictures from, I believe those are intermittent levels. We're going to be talking about a continuous level. And believe me, I'm not an expert, but I did do some research, with the Noise Act of 1972, and they talk about, 55 decibels is the acceptable level for outside activities. But at nighttime, you reduce it by 10 decibels. So we're down to 45 in order for people to sleep at night. So that's kind of, since it's going to be continuous, I think we need to aim for that to be our target when we start looking at material for these sound barrier walls. Because this noise is not going to go away. I understand that. You are a business, but we also have to keep in mind those residents in that area, and they have to maintain, functionality and help. They have to be able to sleep at night. They have to be able to open their windows and sleep in the summer or whatever they choose and not hear that loud, continuous noise. So that's just something I just want people to think about moving forward with this. So, Mr. Lombardi?
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. So, I have two concerns. One, of course, is the noise to the residents. The other is the stormwater drainage, because there are a lot of concerns. I've heard a lot of different scenarios about this and what could possibly happen. In my estimation, and this I just want to say this for the record, in my estimation, I think that Bittier has done everything that they can to make this as comfortable a transition as possible for the residents. And I appreciate that. And with the detention pond, I think they are alleviating some problems in that area that we're not going to see anymore once this retention pond goes in. However, I am concerned about how it drains and where it's draining to, and that needs to be addressed with me tonight to get me fully on board. The other thing, as Mr. Lewis alluded to, I will be bringing forward in the next work session legislation through the Health and Welfare Committee to limit the sound decibels in areas such as this, just like similar to Canton's. I was hoping to have it ready for tonight. It's a pretty involved ordinance, so I'd like to bring that forward so we can consider that in our next work session and possibly add that to our codified ordinances, and then we will be able to show our expectations going forward on things of this nature. So those are the only two concerns of mine. The wall, is this similar to what they put on freeways? Is that what you're looking at?
That's one of the avenues we're looking at, 10 to 15 feet. What kind of noise absorbing material? There's lots of companies out there that do this, but we saw, and I don't know if this would work and applicable in our position, but we found one company that they say they can reduce by almost 30 decibels when you put this in.
Right.
So we want to find out what we can find, the maximum decibel reducer, how high we have to go, how available is the product, and how soon can I get it up. That's my intentions. And just for clarification, our company is really trying to reduce below 40. That's our expectations, not 45, not 50, not 60, is to be below 40 decibels. Again, and I've stated this previously in the past, is that our company is continually ready to improve. If we can't get to a number at the property line, that's the expectation, then we'll look at further avenues of approach. But we do want to show that we are hearing, we are listening, and we are trying to be the best neighbors that we can, and we will make adjustments accordingly. What do we know those adjustments are? We don't know at this point, because hopefully we hit it. But if we don't, we'll correct it.
Well, I just asked that to say, I do have a friend that lives very close to 77 over in Plain Township. When they put up it used to be we'd be outside of his house anytime in the evening. You couldn't hear each other talk. When they put up those barriers along 77 throughout the residential areas, it's quiet. It's quiet on the other side of those barriers. It's really amazing how well they work. So if that's something, like that you're considering here, that would, I think that would be a big plus on this as well.
I've also noticed that you can get some color differences and so on. And just to be clear, we still are absolutely going to replant and do those area beautification things and noise reducing things as well. But I did see some that were green that, again, on the western side, I don't want it to look like a prison's on the other side or whatever. I want to try to make it blend in as much as possible, but to do the beautification items that we said we would. So we're still, totally 100% committed to doing that as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
I also want to clarify that when we're talking about golf course, this isn't an actual action of council because of it here. This is something that we've heard now a couple of times over the past couple of years. And this particular project is just helping heighten the need for our community, not just this project. And as we as council look at it, we need to look at it as a citywide thing, not an individualistic thing, in order to make sure we have good governance and policies in our city.
Ms. Hardison?
Thank you, Councilman Kramer. First of all, obviously, you know the concerns. You've been listening well to the community, and I really appreciate that. You know, the concerns about the water, the current concerns about the constant noise. Is this plan, this last one, is this including the lots being together, or
This includes the easement being removed.
the easement being removed, and so it would all be coming around? Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. But I did want to say thank you for all your efforts and for listening to them. I still have concerns about this being an industrial one. And concerns of the water, which I guess we're not going to really know till it happens, but that's issues that we can keep working towards. And we can't let go that this is a block creek and just harming neighbors. So if you're saying at 4, did you say that from where the machines are, you guys have measured that the farthest house is how many feet?
The closest house, 400 feet.
400 feet. So we should be able to get down to where they're not hearing it at night with this.
Again, I can't say 30 decibels is considered whisper. So can you hear somebody whispering at night?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can't say if we're going to be at 20 decibels, there's no way I can
Yeah,
say.
I think even when things are totally quiet, they were, it's even just with the noises, coming from things when things aren't running around for you.
Right. So I do believe that we can be real close to that, and our intention, like I said, the company, our intention, our design engineers, is to be below 40 if we can. We're going to work really hard to do that.
Ms. Cunningham?
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to reiterate on what Mr. Lewis mentioned. As we go forward, technology is only going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and we have got to get on board and try to see what's going to come in down the pipe in the future to follow what areas the council is going to have to move into to become pertinent. And again, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ray?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a statement. I understand that we're going to have the sound barrier, and usually, just like he said, it does limit the sound. I mean, obviously, I know you have your design team in place. It's just I don't want you to have to, you dome it, and then it kind of bounces. Because, I mean, that's very well done, well designed, but you don't want to cone it as well. So if you were to do away with the wall or two, we would have, I would kind of understand because the acoustics would be in the sound and above open, it would be louder. So, and also, once again, we want to thank you for just making all the adjustments that you made. And if we don't have any further questions, we can bring Alex up so we can talk about the water situation.
Yes, Mr. Slater?
As you all know, this came up, a lot of research, a lot of things were going on being said. My phone has been getting bombarded by everybody else because I am a part of this council. And honestly, with everything that's going on, what I come up with is conversations. Conversation with DeWitt, Arkansas Mayor Black. My new senator came in, many on city council did not know about it. Before they knew what was going on, it was too late. Unfortunately, no money for the city due to a poor economy, and the city council passed it. With that being said, understand, the site we are talking about in Arkansas is not a bit deer mining site. I want to make that clear. I did go up to the Viking Data Center in Akron, Ohio. I sat outside the facility about 9 o'clock at night with my wife, and the decibel reading was about 57. It's not as large as the one you guys want to build, but it's still producing. I did contact the Texas. Two bit mining centers there by each other in the old Alcoa plant. One American, one foreign, meaning, of course, bit here. Out of the two, the American one he felt was better because he was biased, but he felt Whittier was also good, especially in the community, helping the schools and the local community. No fans, building and/or equipment is water cooled, and which keeps the noise level down. On Friday night, this person had one of his connections go to the plant. Inside the plant was running about 90 or 85 decibels rather. When she left the facility and went a distance from the facility and shared the decibel level, it was 45 to 50. That's what I received out of that one. When I shared that they would offer 70 jobs here in Massillon, the response was, that's shocking. They have over 200 employees here working. I thought that was pretty impressive. Last and final thought was your Wenatchee location. I used to live in Wenatchee, and I have friends out there. And so I kind of beat this around the bush, and I called my friend up who I've known for quite some time. Having gone to the facility, he sat out there for quite some time, and his decibel reading was 54.9 decibels by the facility. He also said he was a distance away from the facility, and it ran that point. So if you could make those adjustments, which I feel that you guys are doing everything you possibly should, I don't believe there's going to be problems regardless. You're going to have your good or bad regardless. I just ask you to keep plugging away past the noise ordinance to benefit for the people. One last comment though is just, this came out of Texas as well, tax exemption status for the data center. How does that compare Texas to Ohio? Do you know about that at all? Or?
I don't know the tax abatement side or the tax benefits. We have people that we work directly with that try to help us with building materials, things like that, and the tax reduction or the tax exemptions. But that's a whole process to go through the whole state and how that works. I understand that we just received a partial tax abatement for our Texas site, but that Texas site has been being developed, I believe, since 2018. So it's taken almost 6 years to get to that point. But at this point, I can't honestly give you a clear answer on that, but I know we have people that we hire to help us get to any kind of benefits that we can find.
Okay, so your plan stands right now, because you want to design this last one you presented, correct? I'm just being straight so I know where I'm at.
No, this last one
Is the one you actually want to do?
that's the site, if we can remove the easements, that's the site that we'll see in August next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. Any other additional questions for Mr. Hanson? Seeing none, thank you
Thank you very much.
for attending again tonight, and with the improved plan, I truly appreciate all your work.
Thank you, Council.
Now I'd like to bring up Mr. Alex Fitz, the top water with us.
Good evening, Council. I will pass out this packet that I had created through my site visit today of the area of concern. I'll wait until everybody gets their packet, but first I'd like to kind of go over it really quickly, and then hopefully go up for any additional questions. So, once everybody has one. So the area of concern is across from Mount Brecht, south of Mount Brecht, right by the First Energy substation. So on the aerial map, so the first page shows just a quick little markup that I did of the area in question, and then the second one has the area without any markups that were done moving. So on the very first aerial, with the markups, the red line is the route that we traveled to the site in our vehicle to get back in to where the perimeter of this detention basin really is. And then the pink dashed line, I know it doesn't really show too well on there, but it is pink. That is the area that we traversed on foot, and took a few pictures with their numbers associated with their where we were walking. So for example, pictures 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and then 9 to 10 were roughly around where the arrows are pointing. And then the blue line is the perimeter of where the culvert discharges. Okay. From my field investigations, the whole area kind of, it looks and acts like a detention basin. It was never really intended to be a detention basin, but how it's acting now, that's what it is. So essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be a detention basin on the Whitetail Creek development site feeding to the culvert that goes underneath Albrecht into a very large detention basin, essentially, south of Albrecht, which is about 4.6 acres. There's varying depths. On the south side, it's like, I didn't measure it, but it looked to be around 10 to 15 feet deep. That's how deep it is there. So it's massive. On the northern side, it's not as deep. It's closer to existing elevations on the Whitetail Creek development side. But there's a lot of storage there. And what happens is that once all of that water discharges into this detention basin, it seeps into the ground and infiltrates into a sandy, gravelly soil type. Okay? So we're not talking about a clay soil, we're talking about sand and gravel, so stormwater can percolate through there and get to the river on the east side. The long explanation, I can't do that, but for the short end of it, I wrote down a few bullet points. Number one, the significant size of the area acting as a detention basin south of Albrecht, with the runoff filtering through the ground, which has a soil type made of sand and gravel, will help with any flooding upstream. The decrease in runoff from the project, I'm talking stormwater runoff, thanks to the construction of an oversized detention basin and the soils at the site, and the flattening and regrading of the site will help with also with the flooding. And then the removal of the sloped ditches on the property that currently channel water to the creek. Removing that, it directly feeds into the creek without much obstruction, and they're currently sloped. So by flattening that out, you give stormwater a chance to infiltrate into the subsurface and percolate and basically recharge the groundwater water table. So again, I can go into a longer explanation about this in the map, talk all about curve number method and runoff coefficients and things of that nature, if council would like me to, but that's the short end of the explanation. So,
Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kramer. Alex, have we tested the soil where this is going to be? Have there been soil tests? I'm being told that this is not the type of soil that is going to drain well. Okay, and I'm not saying I've heard this from any expert or anything, but those are the concerns, that this is not going to drain out the way that everybody's anticipating it to. And I want to know what kind of assurances we have that this is going to work the way we want it to work.
Yeah, so we haven't done a soil boring right at where the that 4.6 acres has, not to the best of my knowledge, but we have done soil borings, well, not we as the city, but the developer has done soil borings at the Whitetail Creek development site. And that's where we're getting the information that it is a sandy, gravelly soil type. And for it to transition over into a very clayey, impermeable soil type is very highly unlikely. And I've been told from past experiences that it does drain, from members within my team that have been here for 20 plus years, that it does drain. So,
If that's the case, and I'm not trying to be contentious, I just want to make sure that we as a council are considering all the complaints that we're hearing, okay? But if that is the case, that it does drain, I have 2 points here. Point 1, why do we flood out of the bridge at Albrecht, okay? And point 2, since this has become such a big citizen issue, I think we really need to make sure. I mean, you know, the developer said this. It's not acceptable to me as a resident of Massillon if I'm just sitting down there and it's my property that's going to flood off of this if this doesn't work and we have a large storm. Okay, I really think we need to put a little bit more into this and say, yes, we're certain this is sand, it is going to drain, it is drainable, you know, and then I, in good conscience, can vote for the replat and say, this is, you know, we know what we're talking about and it will be fine. But at this point, I have questions, so that's where you know, this is my trepidation. And this is the only thing holding me back on willing to vote for the replat, is this part here.
well, I can say really quick, regarding the volume of water, essentially it's going to be better than pre-existing conditions. So this project can only help what's currently happening at the site. Because I've asked Cesar Buckley and Mayfield, and they can speak on this as well, to look at the volume difference between pre-development and post. And the curve number, which it's a number based off of how much of your runoff is transitioning into groundwater versus stormwater runoff, is actually lower than what it was in pre-existing conditions. The higher the number, the more stormwater runoff you have. The lower the number, the less you have, and that percolates into those soils. So it's all dependent on soil type, impermeable surface, which has been discussed pretty lengthily at length regarding this site, with it being asphalt and everything. But this curve number, pre-development, is at 70. Post-development, it's at 68. So this project can only help what's currently happening at that site.
Mr. Lewis.
I'm sorry if I've already covered this, but am I correct, and I believe at some point we were told that when undertaking projects, and when it comes to water management, the responsibility of the developer is to just keep the current water situation at or below pre-development, not to have it or anything like that. So if there's currently flooding issues, as long as this does not create an increase in flooding issues, they're within our current code.
Correct.
Ms. Harwitz.
Thank you, Councilman Kramer. Alex, so we've shown this 4.6 acres, so this is all kind of, again, a natural flood area. Did you guys follow and see where the creek just kind of like disappears?
It's kind of at the south end of that perimeter that I've drawn there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was saying it's roughly around 10 to 15 feet deep. Because I was standing right at the edge there and I almost fell in. But that's how much storage we have. That's to attribute basically to...
So like even with that, they're flooding every now and then. Is there any way you can get in there and see, like if something's blocked, that they could try to open it up more so it flows? I mean, so we have this natural basin that collects water, and we know it collects water, and it gets all the way up to the thing. So when we run our storm sewers down, we're going to come down Albrecht, and we're going to be dumping right there at this blue point, right? I mean, our storm drains and water drains are going to come out here. Is that correct?
Correct, right. That's right around where the culvert is.
So that's where they currently go?
Yes, it dumps, yeah. Well, it currently goes into the easement, but the proposed is where it's going to dump
So we'll be dumping more water there then, since the easement will be gone, we'll be diverting it over? Or will we be putting less, because what's on property, they'll be diverting to the detention pond?
It's not more, it's roughly around the same amount. So what's collected on 9th Street is this, and also the creek, we have to look at it at totality, the whole entire site itself. The whole set, basically all of the flow that's coming in from the north, you have to attribute all of it together. We can't just take, you know, the eastern, the system on the east to the south.
Right.
It's all a contributing factor. So yes, we're adding directly more storm water to the culvert from that system alone, but that's not the entire site. That system is really only draining a portion of that site. So mixed in with the detention basin and the creek itself and the lower curve number, technically it's less.
Right, so the easement then, when we get that up, that water that's coming down from the industrial site and heading down, that's gonna be going into this off to 9th Street then, and into there.
Not all of it.
Not all of it.
Yeah, so there's going to be the one that's coming from north to south.
Because there was 2 easements.
Yes,
Okay,
there's
so-
2 easements.
Okay.
One is going to go west on the north side of the property. It's going to go to the west, and then to the edge of the property go south, and then tie into the detention basin. That's going to be a new storm sewer there.
Okay.
And then the other storm system, the other easement where the other storm sewer system is going to be on the eastern side of the property.
So that's going to
and
come
south,
out
and then yes, correct.
And then there are. If there would be a problem that this 4.6 acres is still like flooding and not enough, what do we do then? Like, is the electric company own that? Can they put in a bigger detention pond, or can we explore how to open it up more?
Yeah, and we will have to explore how to open that up more, and it's on private property. So we'll have to get in touch with the property owner and explore.
So they can't stop you from controlling water. I mean,
I'll have to review our ordinance, but I don't believe so.
And that was my concern. So when you stated the curve number for pre-site is 70 and post is 68. After post site, it's not 68. It's 71. What would you propose, and I think I'm going on, what would be proposed to correct that? And what type of timeline would the expectation be? And how would you test that, I guess? I mean, you're looking at calculations now, right, to obtain that curve number.
Correct. That would just be, well, for one, it would be hard to, I don't know, I wouldn't discredit the calculations right off the bat, but if for some reason, somehow it was a 71, I don't know how we would measure that, but if, for say it was, the solution would be to add more permeable surface area. So more water could infiltrate into the ground, so we could collect more storm water runoff and charge the groundwater table that way. So.
And we would know if we're getting more water, more flooding than expected, or whatever the case would just be by concerns brought to administration, and then engineering would have to go out and ensure that those were valid concerns.
Correct.
I guess I'm just questioning pre and post. How are we going to ensure that?
We would handle it pretty much how we handle, flooding concerns now. We would assess the situation. I would like to go see the site itself during a heavy rain event. That's the best way to really see what's going on. And then we come up with a plan, a project, things of that nature. That's usually those are usually the steps that we take on addressing flooding issues, localized flooding issues. So.
Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. So that brings me right back to my one question that really never got answered is, we have flooding issues down there now, we haven't done anything about them. What's going to happen if this doesn't work? Are we just going to leave it the way it is right now? I mean, this is what I'm trying to get to. You know, I want to tell people that this is actually going to make an improvement to the area, but I also don't want to have egg on my face because we were wrong, and we didn't have the right soil tests, and we didn't have the right, calculations, and we end up still flooding. And like I said, that area's been flooded for years, and nothing's been done about it yet. So, what's going to happen if that continues?
So at that point, that's where we as professional engineers take responsibility. That is our job, to make sure things do work. In engineering, right answers matter. They're important. They protect our lives. It's what holds up structures today. It's everything. We can't afford to be wrong. That's why we are licensed professionals. That's why we've done the research, we've done the calculations, and we truly believe that this is correct. Otherwise, we wouldn't put our stamp on it. And if you want, I can have Tom Noble continue as well, since he did the design, and can also attest to that as well, if you want.
Kevin Hill, Sheezer Buckley, Mayfield, design engineer on the project. Really to just echo Alex, and I'll try to just make this very pointed there. I am trained, we're professional engineers with a stamp, are trained and educated to do these type of designs. We do make mistakes, errors happen, but we also have regulations that have been established by the U.S. I'll have U.S. EPA, the Ohio EPA, by Stark County, and by your own municipality. And so when I do a design, it's under my best experience, my best knowledge, but those designs then are subject to review and approvals. And approvals by the Ohio EPA have been obtained, so they have reviewed and approved them. Plans have also been submitted to Stark Soil and Water Conservation District. They have reviewed and approved them, and the plans have also been submitted to the city of Massillon, and they have reviewed and approved them. So it is my job as a professional engineer to understand the regulations and to build to the regulations. My comments I've made to you the past 2 weeks, as I try to drive this point home, is I want you to understand that we've gone way up and above those standards. When you hear the word 70 to 68, most developments are 70 pre and 80 post, because it's a little different of a calculation. We've worked hard to make sure we're doing everything we can. Just as Mr. Hansen said, and I know sometimes you think, well, what does that mean, you're doing everything you can? Well, if I'm telling you I meet the requirements, and I've got 4 other agencies that say the same thing, but yet I'm coming and telling you we're doing more than that, that to me is a good project. And that's trying what we're doing. We're sensitive to what's out there. I will add, sometimes if you want to think, well, how does this whole numbers work? When it rains today on this whole site, some of it does percolate into the ground, some of it is runoff. Okay, what are we doing differently? Well, at the end of our project, we now have more pavement, we have more buildings, so logically you think, well, Kevin, where's all that water going? That's not percolating in the ground. And that's what I said we've been trying to do differently. We've got different things with this one. One, we've created almost 4 acres of gravel area where water is going to collect, settle, and infiltrate in the ground. You don't have that now. Right now when it rains, yes, some of it gets in, but most of it, where does it go? It goes into the drainage ditch. And the goal, or what the drainage ditch is supposed to do is to collect water and get it off the site. And so we're getting rid of these drainage ditches so we don't have this collect the water. We're allowing it to infiltrate into the ground. So I talked about the gravel. We're also creating a flat area. We've got near our stream bed now, we've got a steep area. And anytime water runs on a steep area, your hill in your backyard, it doesn't percolate in the ground. It runs down into a lower area where a drainage basin may be. So we're trimming that out. We're making a flat area where water again will collect, settle, and infiltrate into the ground. And so that is why I'm standing here, and I can say, with a stamp and my educating experience of 35 years, this will be a better project than what it is today, 1. And number 2, we have met and exceeded the regulations that have been established by the Ohio EPA Stark County and your municipality, City of Massillon.
Mr. Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. I just want to make a comment. As we've heard, this area is flooded for years, and what this project will do is hopefully alleviate that, at least improve upon it, at least to some degree. My comment is, I don't think it's incumbent upon this project to fix that flooding problem. That problem already was pre-existing. What they're going to do, it appears, will help the problem, maybe not eliminate it, but whether it does or it doesn't, it's not incumbent upon them to fix that problem. So if that's still a problem afterwards, that's something we as a city need to deal with. But I don't believe that should have anything to do with this project. Thank you.
Any additional comments, questions? Alex, are you going to say a few more words?
Yes, really quickly, I just wanted to clarify on my response. So the detention pond is designed to hold water and allow it to slowly seep into the creek to accommodate for the blockage that's currently happening downstream, and runs freely, causing blockage issues. So that detention pond is essentially just, it's going to help with the situation that's currently happening. So I just wanted to make that clarification really quickly. So that's all.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. And with that, if nobody has anything else, we are adjourned.